Good morning. Um, this topic came up over the weekend, in kind of into yesterday. I was talking with someone, and we were talking about some of the things that I had witnessed locally in a support group, or a group that was designed to be a support group for where I live at. And people were either getting very political and partisan, or they were doing class warfare bashism, is what I'm going to call it. But they were picking on each other based upon what class you were and attributing it or correlating it to your intelligence level. And it got me to thinking, like, why are we going this direction? Why do these things happen? Obviously, I'm not a psychologist or sociologist. I don't claim to be. Just a former special education teacher and English teacher. And it really bothered me. It bothered me because, number one, I was the person that was being called um, without intelligence because I live in a poorer neighborhood than this other person. And it also made me really sad because I'm a person who perhaps is probably too idealistic, but I believe very much that if we really worked at it, we could have this wonderful system where everyone has their needs met, and we could move into that kind of economy in which there isn't this capitalistic pull. Um, Granted, we've taken a lot from science fiction and movies, and we've made it into reality. We have cell phones now. We have computers. We have automatic doors. The next step really is, honestly, besides our healthcare being improved and our education being improved, would be to have our economy switch from what it currently is, which is based on, this system of not just supply and demand, um, but it creates a system that pulls people into these class categories of, well, what's mine, you're not entitled to, and there's these attributes given to people who are in lower economic groups that are not necessarily fair. And I just feel like we should be at that point. We have this evolution in society that we shouldn't be where we're at. However, that said, we've had this COVID pandemic, and I am realizing, I think, with some quiet thought, that this is really impacting more, um, than just what kind of people have said on the news and other professionals have said in terms of your mental health and this and that. I think it goes even deeper into how we as human beings come to believe our identity forms, and really what we believe our identity to be. I'm going to try not to make this too long, just a food for thought kind of people thinking. Please feel free to leave messages. Um, that said, uh, we know from, if you start getting into some of these readings in psychology and sociology, we know that people form attachments with their jobs or their careers, and that persona becomes who they are. A good example in the arts world is, the death of a salesman, because he has associated his whole personality, his whole worth, with being a salesman. Um, and I have heard, I don't have statistics. I didn't pull up any research for this. This is just things, being 47 years old, you've heard along the way, that we really do have a gender bias here, where more men associate who they are with their job than women. Women tend to be very multifaceted. We might have a career, but we're also mom, and we're wife, and or girlfriend or partner or what have you. And it's not saying that men don't have different hats. They're very compartmentalized. So I think we're seeing more of that within this COVID flux. of what's happening in the discussion world of online. Although I would be interested as the professionals and the experts in this area of sociology and psychology start to take this apart. I'll be interested to see what the readings are, read what the findings are, excuse me, to see what they're noticing. Because me as a lay person, just a person who, is experiencing this, I look at it as people are having to confront who they are. If they are off work, or maybe they are working from home, but it's a different layout, there are people who have been now, furloughed or for let go or what have you, that are now, who am I in this big fishbowl? And there are people who are now stuck at home where they normally would go out with friends and, their activities and stuff, that are now confronted with who am I, the individual, versus who am I when I'm part of the bigger group. I know we as parents see this, where we see our child at home and then we see our child in a social situation and we're like, that's not the same child. But it is, because we all know we have these faces we put on. And so as I was thinking about some of these comments that were coming out from people, I have to wonder if they're being confronted with their belief systems. Who am I without the group behind me? Who am I, the individual? Am I okay being by myself? I'm a person by nature of being an introvert. I love my time alone. I do like being with people, but I really relish that time when I can calm down and I don't have everything going on around me. For the extrovert, that's a very difficult place to be when you are like social, and everything you do is based in that. To be suddenly ripped out of that comfort zone, now people are being made uncomfortable, and uncomfortable maybe even in their own skin, uncomfortable in their part of society. Maybe they are on the same economic scale as other people, but their job gave them this status quo, and now they're down here and now they have to reconcile that. And these are just my thoughts on what was happening within this conversation that I was having, because it bothered me, because it was in my own town. And I'm like, gosh, if you're in my town and you feel this strongly that because I am making less money than you do, that I should suddenly be like by these other rules that don't apply, that I shouldn't have a say in what industries and buildings come into my town, or have a say about what I feel about masking when we're out for the safety of ourselves and other people, and mainly for other people, so they don't get all of our stuff in case we're asymptomatic. And I really had to do a lot of heavy meditation and thinking on this one to come up with this possibility that maybe they have looked at themselves and they don't like what they see, or they're really uncomfortable because now they don't have the pack to back up maybe some of their beliefs that are perhaps misfounded. And the kind of things that I'm talking about are things based in prejudices, biases, bigotry, racism, and things like that. I'm not talking about, what your spiritual belief is, because that is, I believe, totally unto you. I'm not speaking about whether or not you feel college is best, because I'm pretty open. I think whatever works for you works for you. But I'm talking about people that have literally said things like, get out of town if you're for affordable housing. Okay, get out of town if you support the homeless. If you're getting help with food banks, some of these people literally believe that you should just not be a part of the society. Those are the things I'm addressing by wondering what inside of them is hurting so bad, or is so in juxtaposition with having to quarantine, that they're lashing out like this. So that really is just a very small tip of kind of this discussion that I'd like to have, but also my thoughts on this whole issue, because we're seeing some of these things in society. Right before I had someone tell me these sorts of things, I was reading articles about the shooting at the McDonald's that happened because a woman could not go in. I was reading about the Taco Bell employee that had feces thrown at them because of, whatever was up with not being able to access what this person wanted. Um, just because somebody is cute or because somebody is upset, it's not right. It's not right to go shoot places up. Obviously, it's against the law. But fundamentally and morally, that is totally not good behavior. Neither is feces. The bottom line behavior of that always strikes me like a 2-year-old who didn't get the cookie and throws themselves on the floor. That's my humble opinion on that behavior. So what I wanted to reach out to people about also is, yes, this is a chance to be alone with you, your mind, your thoughts, your behaviors, your belief systems. It's a time for you to question those. And it's a safe spot to be able to do that when you're not going to affect other people. When you lash out at people, though, and take it into society, that's when we have an issue. And my suggestion is that if you are feeling uncomfortable, you're starting to notice changes, you're starting to notice, oh wow, I've never known that about myself. This is a good time to reach out to your spiritual guides, okay, your leaders in the community that are part of your community. I'm always a big supporter of mental health and reaching out to walk through this path of knowing who you are. And I think, to put the positive spin on it during this time of quarantine, during this time when we're slowly getting back to society as we would like to know it, it's okay to reach out to people and your teammates, your health partner, health partners, friends, because who better to know you than yourself? And sure, there's going to be some scary stuff that comes up when we start to realize who we are as people. Maybe there are ways that you want to be. Maybe those ways clash with the rest of society. Maybe you have to figure out, how do I live within this society? Now, in terms of the types of things that I was seeing, I don't approve of racism. I don't approve of discrimination. I don't approve of, in my personal opinion, I don't think they're morally right. I would like to see us all live together peacefully and continue. But I suppose if that's the kind of person that you decide to become, then that has to be on you. And anytime, I mean, just like me making this video, I have to be accountable to what I say may or may not rub with somebody the right way. And I have to be accountable for, yes, this is how I believe. If I met someone who was prejudiced or racist, I would have to be accountable. I couldn't just go along and be like, oh, no, man, I didn't mean that. I'd have to say, yes, I did mean that. And yes, I don't approve of what you're doing. And yes, I'll stand up against you and say, no, that's not right. I would defend somebody who was being attacked, that kind of a thing. In terms of, if somebody called somebody a nasty name, I would probably say, hey, that's not cool. Let's not do that. But if you're that type of person, you can't just go around saying it and then not think that there's going to be consequences, if that makes sense. I'm hoping I should have done this video yesterday and I didn't. So with that, I'm going to leave you with find out who you are. Be okay with that. If it's within, the realms of being able to be who you are. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Mental health options are out there. I always post those on my social media pages periodically. If you need to get in touch with somebody, or you need an email or a website to some, what's mental health in your area, please let me know. Eventually I'll figure out how to edit these videos after going live to put the numbers in there, but leave it at that. Peace. Love you all.